Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me as always is...
It's Matthew Immortus Haas.
Immortus.
Mortis. Not Kang, but Immortus.
Immortus.
Because I thought it was Kang at the end of the episode because he let out a hint, says, I've been called many things. A conqueror was one of the things he mentioned. They even emphasized conqueror when he said it to kind of like give the audience a clue, almost like, oh, conqueror, you know.
Well, the thing is, he is Kang, but he isn't Kang.
He's a nicer version of Kang.
Yes.
Who's more goofy, not as serious as probably the conqueror variant version of himself.
Yes.
Someone who's a little bit more intellectually inclined, I think, more probably sees like the humorous side of the whole thing, basically, of what's going on. Of course, too, he could have just gone crazy from being stuck there for millions of years, so.
Yeah. With no friends, just missed minutes, I guess.
Just missed minutes to show up and become like a horror film.
Yes. So, before we get started here, Matt, I've got something that I want to bring up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I know a way that you can be devious at a party.
Oh, yeah?
I was thinking of this the other night. So, always bring Skittles with you to a party.
Okay.
Okay, so you know sometimes at parties or get-togethers there's a big bowl of M&Ms?
I've heard stories, yes.
Yes. So just drop a few Skittles in there and then wait.
I think that's going to turn the party into like a huge fight.
That's why it's fun.
So one person's going to get a handful of Skittles and maybe like 2 M&Ms, and then they're going to get really mad, and then it's going to start a whole argument, and then you know how these cocktail parties go, or whatever you call them, whatever the kids call them, or whatever anybody who has money calls them who goes to these things. You know, they're going to have all kinds of pent-up like frustrations with each other, and it's going to all come out loose just from like that one event. It's going to be what's going to be, if you will, like a time branch.
Yes.
You know, it just takes one little thing, and then it just cascades into a full-on brawl.
And then what you do is
someone's going to get killed.
Yeah, and you just sit in the corner and watch.
Yeah, I mean, if you're devious, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Because, you know, most of the time I'm bored at parties, so I think this would make it more entertaining.
Yeah, I mean...
Mm-hmm. So, keep that in mind, people. Always carry Skittles with you wherever you go. Because anytime you come across a, you know, big bowl of M&Ms, you just drop some Skittles in there.
I mean, so that's what you gotta do, so, you know.
Mm-hmm. Just have a special Skittles pocket in your clothing, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A Skittles pocket, yeah, sure.
Yes. Like you do. And,
yeah.
See, the reason I came up with this idea, too, is I was thinking back on an actual get-together I went to once. Years ago. You know how they have those lime-flavored tortilla chips?
No, actually, I don't.
Well, they look like regular tortilla chips, but they have like a lime flavor to them. And I was not expecting that when I grabbed some at a party once. And I was expecting regular tortilla chips, and then all of a sudden they're lime flavored. And that didn't make me happy.
I just sort of see lime being an interesting, like if you have salsa with it.
Yeah.
Lime. Sometimes people put lime or lemon in salsa.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad.
Flavors.
It didn't taste bad per se. It just wasn't what I was expecting. It's kind of like if, like, say you had two drinks sitting next to you and you go to grab one of them. And, you're expecting like Pepsi, and all of a sudden it's Sprite or something, you know what I mean? It's that weird, like, ooh, what was that?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yep.
That's my way of being devious, folks. So, when I go to jail for putting Skittles into a bowl of M&Ms, you'll know.
That's called living on the wild side.
Yes.
So.
Living on the edge. Yes, that's what I do.
Edge. Living on the edge.
So speaking of people living on the edge of time, today we are covering the 6th and final episode of season 1 of Loki, entitled For All Time, Always. Written by Eric Martin and Michael Waldron, and directed by Kate Herron. I'm sorry. Anyways, so, this episode, what was your initial reaction here, Matt?
I liked it. I mean, I watched it twice, just to kind of get a better feel for it. I still not really sure. I mean, I liked it just because it's Loki and it's the last episode of the season, but not as much as the 5th episode, though. I think that was one of my favorites. So
yeah,
this one was very heavy on the monologue. Not a whole lot of room for other characters, so it kind of felt like, oh, that's all right, that's it, I guess. Like,
yeah.
So, I'm kind of, I'd say about 80-20, 80% like it, 20% didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is if this was the last episode, like, total, like, if there wasn't going to be a second season, I would have absolutely hated this episode. But the fact that there is going to be a second season and we'll have some of the questions answered in that season, hopefully, and we might get Morbius on a jet ski. Mobius, not Morbius. Yeah. Mobius. I called him Morbius. I don't know why. But anyways, Mobius on a jet ski. We might be a little bit happier. Or at least I will be. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like I said, like when I first saw it, I hated it, and then I thought about it afterwards. I mean, I didn't hate it per se. I thought it was a good episode of TV. It just didn't answer any of the questions I had of the show, which I was hoping it would answer. You know what I mean? It just created more questions.
Yeah.
And I haven't been this, like, upset, and then I got happy when I saw that there was going to be a season 2. So I haven't been this upset since, like, Lost or something, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, the TV show Lost, I think that, you know, there were different seasons where it would end, and I'd be like, that didn't answer anything that I wanted answered, you know? And, I mean, the thing is you can't expect things to be the way you want them to be. And,
true.
Yeah, so that was kind of where I was like, I don't know what I was expecting, though, exactly, you know? I mean, I kind of had certain thoughts that I wanted in my, you know, in my my own little headcanon for the show that I was hoping would happen that didn't happen. But it's okay. It was still really well written and really well acted. I'll give it that. So, anyway, let's get into the plot here, Matt.
Sure.
Okay. So we start out this episode with Loki and Sylvie entering what is called the Citadel at the end of time. They get in there, and like you said, it becomes like a horror film all of a sudden because Miss Minutes just shows up. Like, freaky.
Like beginning of a Saw movie or something.
Yeah.
Or
like Chucky or something, you know what I mean? It's just like...
yeah. Like, hey, y'all, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah. She basically ends up relaying an offer to the two of them from her master, who she calls He Who Remains, to return them to the sacred timeline, while offering so basically she offers them sovereignty and happiness.
The whole thing.
Yeah, basically, like everything that like Loki could defeat Thanos, he could rule on the throne of Asgard, things like that, all the things that he wanted in life. So they reject the offer, and then we head over to the TVA headquarters, where Ravonna Renslayer, Judge, she receives some information sent by He Who Remains via Miss Minutes, and Mobius comes in and confronts Renslayer, and both of them accuse each other of betraying each other. So they're talking about this, and then about like the idea of free will, and not Free Willy. They weren't talking about the movie Free Willy. Just letting you know, because that'd have been an interesting episode. Just having
an argument over,
if Free Willy's a good movie or not, and
yeah, and then that's what she leaves in search of Free Willy. She's got to find the original copy,
yeah,
to make sure it's good or not.
She's gonna go back in time to when Blockbuster was open and rent the movie, and
and a jet ski.
Yes.
It's a wild weekend.
Yes.
You watch Free Willy on Friday night and then go jet skiing on Saturday.
Yes. With Willie.
Yeah.
Swimming right next to you. So, well, she goes off. She ends up going off in search of free will. Basically, is what she ends up doing. Basically, after their little argument, she goes into she opens up her TemPad and goes into a door that takes her into free will. Basically, this is like Mobius was going to prune her as well. So before that, she did this, which well, it's interesting.
Well, she fought him off because she knows more about martial arts and stuff than he does, or just fighting than he does.
Yeah,
and knocks him over. And it was interesting because he accused her of betraying him because she pruned him. The thing is, though, is that she already knew that pruning him wouldn't actually kill him.
Yeah.
And so she accused him of betraying her because it's like for example, it's like, since she knew that she wasn't really going to kill him, pruning him wasn't like as big as a betrayal as he thought it would be because she wasn't actually killing him. she just sent him to the. Well, I guess then again, he could have died from that beast, whatever. But
Yeah.
then again, the beast usually goes for bigger prey, not like one person. You know, they go for like huge things or whatever, like ships and stuff like that. But so I don't know. But then she said, we spent eons of friendships with each other, because to them time is different, and then he had one crisis of faith, and then chooses the word of two Lokis, over her word or whatever.
Yeah,
that was an interesting argument.
Especially when you think about the whole idea too. It's like, is Loki representative of the devil or of good? What is, you know what I mean? So it's like kind of interesting philosophically.
Yeah.
So she leaves through this door or whatever, and then we see a scene in 2018 Fremont, Ohio, which isn't that far from here.
Yeah.
It's about 35 miles from Toledo, Ohio, where I am. So, yep.
It's not.
Yeah, it's like it's in Northwest Ohio community, which is interesting because I'm not going to ruin anything because I know you haven't seen it yet, but this is the second Marvel property I've seen in the last week that has something that takes place in Ohio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I saw Black Widow the other day. And
it takes place in Ohio, or some of it takes place.
Yeah, the beginning of the movie takes place in Ohio, which is weird.
Oh, wow.
So
interesting.
Yeah. And that does not ruin anything because that's like the first thing that appears on the screen. So so basically Hunter B-15 ends up there in Fremont and is pursued by other TVA troopers. And then she reveals there's a variant there of Renslayer, who is a high school vice principal at a school that happens to be Franklin D. Roosevelt High School.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, does not exist in Fremont, but
whatever. Well, maybe in that timeline it does.
Yeah.
And I mean, you called it. You said that pen was gonna show up somewhere.
Yeah.
And then
it was definitely Chekhov's pen. I mean, no. Yeah.
So how does that work out? Because I thought that there's only supposed to be one version of someone. So how is she a judge and a TVA, but also a principal?
See, here's the thing. Okay, the sacred timeline, from what I understand and what I've read on different things, is actually not just one timeline. It's made up. There are multiple timelines, but it's kind of like, how a rope is made up of various strings?
Yeah.
So basically what you want to do is keep that rope tight with those different strings, and each of those strings is a different timeline. But
okay.
So that is what the sacred timeline is. But when that rope becomes frayed, it starts to create other timelines and branch off. And that's what you don't want. So there can so like basically what we've understood in this series, there are because there's variations of people, because obviously there are variations in different timelines. It wasn't all the same timeline where we got Crocodile Loki or Boastful Loki or Sylvie or anything. It was all different timelines, but they're all still part of the sacred timeline. But those Lokis decided to do something different in each of those timelines that they weren't supposed to do. That got them pruned from that timeline.
Okay, so all right. So there could be multiple Lokis simultaneously living, but not doing anything wrong. It's just that
not doing anything off of what the timeline wants them to do.
That's really confusing. But okay.
Yeah.
So wait. Okay. So isn't that kind of like a multiverse in of itself, though?
Yeah, it is. There is a multiverse. Okay. So basically, what it is you don't want that you want that multiverse to be in concert with each other, meaning like, you know, how a rope, like I said, the rope is the best idea, how the strings of a rope are all still together, but if you fray one of those strings, it breaks the rope.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
So that's what you don't want. Yeah.
Right. So basically, the multiverse is, as long as it's contained, it's okay. But then you can't let it be. So it's kind of like the opposite of like the multiverse in the DC TV show, where you could just use a device and just go to a different, like go to Supergirl's Earth or whatever.
Yeah. I think you might still be able to transfer from one timeline to another, because I mean, technically there are different timelines, because I think that kind of explains what happened with Cap at the end of Endgame, where he goes and is back with Peggy.
Yeah.
I think he's in a different timeline with her, basically, in a way, but it's still part of the sacred timeline.
Right, and then he just went and returned to the other, Endgame timeline at that when he got older. Like that. Yeah, what's interesting, because at the very beginning of the episode, they started playing the music at the end of Endgame. That was the very first thing they played. So that was interesting.
So basically, there can be various Renslayers, there can be various, me's, there can be various you's, different, it's just like, I mean, because that's kind of like what it is within the DC multiverse as well as the Marvel multiverse, and I think what's happening now, though, like at the end, we're going to have different things, but like basically what they don't want is like it to go into like a weird like multiverse where people start fighting with each other.
Yeah.
Like what happened, like what He Who Remains explains, where the various people, and you do have Nexus variants, which are people that are very similar in each of the timelines.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So, like, Kang is a Nexus variant, or He Who Remains. So.
Right. Yeah.
As is Wanda and other characters. So anyways, do you want to take a really quick break here, Matt, and then we'll come back and finish talking about this episode?
Sure.
Okay, we'll be right back, folks.
What is Gen X? What is the silent generation? What do generations have in common? Hi, I'm Trish the Dish from the Gen X Voice podcast, and I invite you to listen to conversations I have with folks from different generations, backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences in an attempt to see what connects rather than divides us. Even though Gen X has been called slackers, Karens, or not mentioned at all in some cases, we are the bridge generation, so I feel compelled to do my part to destroy ageism by bringing all these voices together. And, as a bonus, each guest gets to answer some 80s questions at the end of each show. So download and listen to Gen X Voice today on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And let's see how much we have in common after all.
Hi, this is Catherine, host of a new fashion podcast, The Real Fashion School Dropout. Join me as I interview guests every week in the fashion and beauty space, and we gossip on all things fashion and beauty, and even get into some personal stories of their journey in the industry. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Hope to see you there.
And we are back. So, So anyways, back to the idea here of the show. What happens here is, okay, so we have this Renslayer variant. So basically, that was and that might have been where she was plucked from too. Because they went back in time to 2018, which is interesting because that's right around the time of of the Infinity War. It is. Endgame and everything too. So, But what they're doing is they go to Fremont and find her there, and B-15 is there because she's basically trying to prove to the other TVA troopers that all the TVA employees are variants, and that's the way she proves it, by proving that Renslayer is one.
Right.
So, and then meanwhile, while this is happening, see, that's one of my main complaints. I'm going back to like my review of the episode here. My main complaint is that there wasn't enough about the TVA agents and stuff in this episode, because most of the episode focused on our trinity here of people, of Loki, Sylvie, and He Who Remains. Okay, so meanwhile, He Who Remains comes out chomping on an apple, which is very symbolic as well. You got the idea of the tree of knowledge from Genesis and everything, you know what I mean? So it's like the whole apple that, So there's interesting implications there.
Not to be confused with the Tree of Knowledge, the album of Genesis, the rock band.
Yes.
Which does not exist, but
it should.
Well, it does in a different timeline.
Yes. In a different timeline, all the Genesis albums are just named after elements from the Book of Genesis. Their first album is called Adam, and
wow.
And they go into like Cain and Abel, and okay. So meanwhile, okay. So he greets Loki and Sylvie, and they're both surprised that he is just a normal dude, So he's just like some guy, Using so Sylvie tries to attack him, but he's got like a tempad that he can, blip her back so she doesn't attack him. He says he can anticipate all of their actions because he has foreseen the past, present, and future, and he guided them to him. So basically, he's trying to say that everything they've done to this point, he knew was going to happen and basically made it happen.
Right.
So basically taking away the idea of free will. He also reveals that he created the TVA after several variants of himself discovered alternate universes and contacted each other in our future, the 31st century, but his past. So, several of them tried to like conquer each other in different universes, and that led to that multiversal war that Miss Minutes talked about in the first episode. And he harnessed this creature named Eliath that we saw in the last episode to basically end it all and isolate his timeline and create the TVA to prevent further branches. So basically, he was just boiling it down to where it was just him and no other variants of himself. So as he has grown weary, he offers Loki and Sylvie a choice. They can kill him and end the singular timeline, which again is not really a singular timeline, but is you know what I mean? And risk another multiversal war sparked by his variants, or succeed him in leading the TVA and managing the timeline. So basically, they can take over.
Yeah.
And become the new, timekeepers. Yeah.
Sylvie does not like that idea at all.
No.
Loki, on the other hand, is not that he likes the idea, but he's thinking about it.
Yeah, and they basically are fighting about that. They do have a nice passionate kiss with each other.
Yeah, that's right. After they get done fighting
Yeah.
in the room while, you know, the guy's just like laughing and watching, like, you know.
So my question is, if they ended up having sex with each other, would that be masturbation?
No, because the thing is, it's like, it's not. I know everyone's joking about, like, oh, he fell in love with himself. It's like, it's not the same person, though. Like,
Yeah, I know.
it's. I mean, it's a different variant, and it's not only a different variant, it's a different sex. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, but still, for all, you know, intents and purposes, you know, her parents, Odin, and, you know, whoever, I forgot,
Frida.
what was it? Was it Freya? You know, could have actually, like, genetically been different people. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah. I know I'm making it serious here, but...
Well, it does. It makes sense. I mean, I was just being funny. But anyway, so the...
I know you were, but other people are like, oh, it's disgusting, like, getting all, like,
yeah.
It's like, dude, it's a TV show, like, calm down.
People
Nobody...
were... I saw somewhere online where somebody was trying to say that this show is trying to make incest seem okay in the world.
Oh, my God. Like, whatever. But it's not even incest.
No, I know. That's what they were trying to say it was. It's like, oh, because they're like brother and sister, sort of, and so incest...
Well, no, it's not like that.
No.
It's like they're the same person. So it's not even... it's a whole new concept that's not even applicable in human society because it's never happened before.
No.
It's like...
that we're aware of.
Well, yeah, that we're aware. Did you see the thing about... what was it? Someone made a page called Christians Against Loki, but I think it was a joke page.
Oh. No, I haven't seen that.
Like a fake group, because the person who made the page, I forgot what name it was, but it was like I forgot the name, but it was basically like kind of like if you knew type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was a joke, but like the people who would actually join the group wouldn't know because they're stupid and they're like, yeah.
So basically just trying to rile up the people that are going to, and trying to basically figure out who these idiots are.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because,
You're not very bright. Well, like I told you before, did you ever watch any of that video I sent? I mean, I know it was a long interview, but did you watch any, like, the Bill Schneblin guy?
No, I have not yet. I was going to, and I forgot to.
Don't worry about it. I sent it as a joke, but like, this is an interview called "Interview with an Ex-Vampire," is what it's called. Mind you, this video came out like in 2012 or something. So, but then again, you know, Christian fundamentalists are never really big on the times, so they probably actually thought this was like, oh, remember that movie Interview with the Vampire? Well, if we say Interview with an Ex-Vampire, or it's like, even though that movie came out like 20 years before, like, to them, that's like current. So like, 'cause I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I know these kind of people. Like, they're actually like this. Like, they're so like disconnected from like the rest of the world that like,
oh yeah, they're
like literally like 20 years behind, like, of like whatever's going on pop culture wise. That's not an insult. That's just a factual observation. Like, do what you want with that fact, but that's anyway. So this Bill Schneblin guy, how did I even come up with this? I forgot what we were talking about just now. What were we saying?
Oh, about how Loki and incest.
Oh yeah, Loki and incest, and then or Lokecest, if you will. Oh God, I hope I didn't just start a new porn trend. Anyway, looking for some Lokecest movies, man. Oh God. Anyway, damn it, that's gonna happen.
It already has happened in another timeline.
Yeah, that's exactly. So, oh yeah, because the Christians Against Loki thing. So this guy called the video was called "Interview with an Ex-Vampire." I kid you not, this was a 9-part interview. Each one was over an hour long. So it's a 9-hour long video where this guy, his name is Bill Schneblin, it's a lot easier to say it than spell it. It's all kinds of. It's hard to spell. And it's this dude with a white beard, white hair. It's not Santa Claus. At least I hope not. It's pretty much like the basis of QAnon before QAnon was a thing. So like, he's going around, talking about like how everything in pop culture is like secretly satanic and part of the occult, and that's how they get you. That's how they get people, because they think they're doing something innocent or whatever, but it's really part of like the big satanic plan. And that's a really convenient way too to sort of insulate your community, like the outside is dangerous and evil. You got to just stick to us, we'll keep you safe type of thing. And of course, part of being safe is that you don't have any outside information to contradict anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way most cults work. So.
Oh yeah, and so like he's just going on and on about like how Halloween was secretly like a satanic thing to kind of grab you when you're young. Anyway, that's not the bulk of what. Like if you're interested in like really really crazy shit, like if you want to just listen to like a guy ramble on for 9 hours about how he joined a Wiccan group because none of what he says is true, by the way. So like he claims that he went to a Catholic university and that one of his professors, I don't know if it was history or whatever, he claimed that Jesus was actually a wizard, and that's how he got all his powers. So that in order to be a true Christian, you yourself have to learn witchcraft in order to also gain the same powers that he had, and then that way you could pretty much do the same things that Jesus had. Okay, I can say it right now. No Catholic professor would ever say anything like that at all in any institution or of learning or any, I mean, come on, like, you kidding me? And what were we talking about? Loki?
So Loki. Anyways, all I was just saying is that I've seen things online where people were trying to say that this was Disney trying to indoctrinate people into incest, and
that's how I got into it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Anyways, which it wasn't. I mean, these are the same people trying to say that Monsters Inc. was trying to indoctrinate people into pedophilia. So,
oh God.
Yeah. So, anyways, so basically, back to the story here. He Who Remains is basically saying that they can kill him or succeed him. Those are their two, choices here.
Yeah.
And I think it was funny too. There was kind of like a meta moment too, where he's basically trying to prove that he knows what's happening before it happens by basically showing them the script to the show.
Yeah. Well, just like the beginning.
Yeah.
When they made him sign off on all the everything he's ever said.
Yeah.
And then he says something, the new paper comes out of the fax machine type of thing.
It would have been really funny if, like, at the top of the paper, it said, like, written by Michael Waldron or something. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah, that would have been. That would have been funny.
Yeah. But anyways, they have this like little fight because they don't agree on what they should do. Loki's basically under the idea that he thinks that they should rule together over the timeline, and they can fix things and make things better for everybody, you know? And
right.
Sylvie just wants to kill He Who Remains because he fucked up her life.
Right.
Basically.
At one point, too, he got really mad at her. It was like, not really mad, but just like exasperated. He's like grow up, Sylvie. Really? Like, you're still fixated on this? Like,
yeah.
You know?
And I mean, the thing is like almost all these things were put into their mind by He Who Remains early on when he did say something at one point. He's like, can you trust him? He said that, and then later on, Sylvie basically proves that she can't trust Loki. Even though it's funny because, okay, the thing is Loki has become a person that should be trusted, but she has yet to become a person that can trust people. So she can't trust him fully, even though she should. But she doesn't know that she should. You know what I mean? It's kind of a weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
here.
She distrusts him. It was more of like she has to do what she has to do. She won't be happy unless she kills the guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
but it's still a little bit of the trust idea too, because I do think that you can tell she doesn't fully trust him because she doesn't trust anyone.
Right.
Even though they're closer to each other than any two people have ever been.
Right. This is interesting, right? Because this is the first time Loki's actually ever been giving the chance to rule.
Yeah.
And it's like the only time where he doesn't actually really want to do it. It's just like more of like, we got to do this. Like, this is very interesting because like throughout his whole life, he's been seeking power and not getting it. And then now it's given to him and he's like reluctantly like, well, maybe we should. Plus, too, he's willing to share it. Normally, he would want to rule him by himself.
Yeah, and he just realizes it's basically the lesser of two evils in this situation. Because, him being able to control things, he could actually change things and make it so somebody else can control, even if he can. It's kind of like if tomorrow I became the CEO of Amazon, I could just give it away to somebody else if I wanted to,
or just dissolve it.
Yeah, or do whatever I wanted with it. Yeah,
which is interesting though because the very first Avengers movie, Loki does his whole speech against free will. How people don't really want it; they want to be ruled, and and then his variant Loki is all about free will, and he is to a certain extent too, because like he kind of changed throughout the series. Because I remember it was like the second episode when he was talking with Mobius, and he was like, kind of like, wait, so you have everything just completely ordered from beginning to end. There's no free will, and he's like, that seems kind of boring or whatever. But it's like, wait a minute. Didn't you just make a speech like from your timeline like 12 hours ago talking against free will?
And it is the whole idea too, though. I mean, the thing with Loki is he's thinking of ways that he could make things better. Like he could save Asgard, because like earlier on when Miss Minutes was talking to him and saying things about how he could rule Asgard, he could do this, he could do that, he could kill Thanos and whatnot. None of the music playing and any of those things are from the movies where those events happen. It's actually the music from the War of Ragnarok.
Oh, okay.
Where Ragnarok is what brought down Asgard. So subconsciously, if you're familiar with that music and everything, you basically are aware that what he's probably thinking in his head is, I can save Asgard. So that kind of proves that he's become a better person in the idea that he's not trying to rule Asgard, he just wants to save Asgard.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he wants to rule it too, but he doesn't. Well, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want his home to be destroyed.
Right, and that's a lot of stuff has to do with home in this show. I mean, that's when Mobius sent him to that mind prison, it was basically at home. With what was her name? Sif. Yeah. Kept punching him, and like it was like some hallway, in Asgard during in the palace or whatever.
And it was the whole idea of him being alone, but
yeah, exactly.
But I mean, and his biggest fear before was being alone. But I think what he's realizing is that he's not alone if he can save his people.
Right. Yeah, and he can.
Yeah, even if they hate him, if he saves them, he's kind of sacrificed himself for them in a way.
Right. Well, even that one in Ragnarok, was it Ragnarok or was it? I don't remember which movie it was. Where basically he was like shapeshifted into Odin and was like doing like a play where he basically died in Thor's arms, like being a sacrifice for.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's like that's what he comes to, like him being a sacrifice. It's like usually like when you're like a really terrible person, you don't really see yourself as like the sacrifice. You want to be around to rule. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
So it's like he does kind of have like almost like a martyr complex as well. Not just. It kind of does make him different than, like, let's say Thanos, for example, who's all about power and doesn't really be a martyr himself, wants to martyr other people.
And the whole idea here, the whole idea here, where back to my trust thing between the two of them, it's almost like too, because they're so much alike, because they technically are variants. I mean, they technically are the same person, but the variants of each other. It brings up the idea of, like, can you really trust yourself? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we have that battle within our minds, like, we're like, okay, I should be doing this, but I'm gonna not do it. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Like, even if it's something simple as, I should, clean out my refrigerator, but I'm not going to because, I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
Well, it's because you got the Durga Skull people are hiding behind it, and that's dangerous. So they pop out and try to grab you. So
you don't want to do that.
No.
So, anyways, so basically what ends up happening here is, Sylvie tries to kill him. Loki fights for her, fearing that he who remains might be right, and pleading that he wants to keep her safe. They kiss, in a passionate kiss, but Sylvie uses the tempad and kind of stabs Loki in the back, basically, but not really. It brings us up to that whole idea that love is a dagger that was brought up in the third episode. But instead of stabbing him in the back, which we thought might happen, she sends Loki back to the TVA headquarters. And then kills he who remains. Because he's gotten to the point now where he can't anticipate what's happening, because we've gone past the point where he knows what's happening. On the timeline.
So, it was just interesting. So he knew everything was going to get to that point, at least. And whether he persuades them or not, he knows at least that far,
And I mean, the thing is who knows how many times this has actually happened. That's the other thing, too, because if time is cyclical, it could have happened again and again and again.
Right. Does he forget each time then, though?
Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, that's the thing is, like, who knows what happens? You know what I mean? It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Or maybe he does know what's happening and is saying that he's not,
Right.
Yeah.
This is lying.
Yeah. So basically, Loki's back at the TVA headquarters. He who remains is unleashing a multiverse with timelines that cannot be pruned. And so Loki goes back and he tries to warn B-15 and Mobius about he who remains and his variants. But they don't recognize him. Loki discovers that a statue of one of the variants of He Who Remains, or Kang, or whatever you want to call him, has replaced those of the timekeepers at the headquarters. So,
yep.
And then we get the credits and an announcement that we're getting a season 2.
Yeah, instead of getting like a scene at the end, that was kind of like the version of the scene at the end, like telling us that
Loki will return in season 2.
Yeah,
it's interesting too. I mean, it's hard to say whether that does that mean why don't Mobius and B-15 know who he is? Like, is he in a different timeline at a different TVA maybe?
Yeah, or maybe perhaps he's not a variant anymore, so they just think he's
Yeah.
just a regular analyst.
Because the fact is, it would be, you would think that they would recognize him as a Loki. They don't even know his name, though. That's what I'm saying. It's just weird.
No,
so,
yeah.
so
Mobius
maybe
said-
in this new timeline or whatever, Lokis aren't a threat.
Yeah, exactly. Mobius referred to him as an analyst and told him to just calm down a little bit and, do his research and trying to figure it out or whatever. Because they were all saying what he wants us to, basically open up all the timelines now, because that's kind of against what TVA does,
Yeah.
So they're trying to figure out, all right, do we obey our instructions? But our instructions are against the very thing, that we're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? So it's what do you do?
It'd be like working at a Walmart and somebody all of a sudden says, "Yeah, just give everything away for free." What?
Right. But it's your boss telling you to do it. So it's well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's like, is this a test? I mean, it's that's why I'm starting to wonder if that's what they're thinking. Is this guy just fucking with us?
Yeah.
To test our loyalty. But then if we are loyal, then we're proving that we're stupid enough to go against the actual teachings of the organization. So then are we going to get punished for that? Or are we going to get punished for not doing what we're told to do? Crazy.
It'll be interesting to see where this goes in the second season.
Well, if we don't get a jet ski in this next season, I'm going to be really pissed. Because they mentioned it twice. They're just teasing us. They mentioned it the first time in episode 2 because they knew that the memes were going to come out, because now media is all interactive now, not like it used to be. So now the show and the people basically have a conversation with each other, and they knew, jet ski is going to be funny. Owen Wilson on a jet ski. We're going to have wow memes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In episode 4, he mentions it again, saying, "Oh, I wish I maybe had a jet ski." Me right up, it's jet ski 3 times. Nothing.
It'll happen.
Well, better.
It has to happen. Anyways, do you want to take a break here, Matt, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some trivia?
Yeah, sure. Some trivs. All right.
We'll be right back.
Need a new podcast to listen to? Well, why not check out the Super Podcast from the Super Network at supermarcy.com, where we discuss films and pop culture, and we do monthly fan-voted commentaries. We are available on all major podcasting platforms.
And we are back. Back. Okay, so here's a little bit of Easter eggs, trivia, that type of thingamabob. Here we go. Okay, so at the beginning, the Marvel Studios logo isn't accompanied by the usual fanfare. Instead, we hear the voices of characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You can hear the likes of Falcon, Wasp, Black Panther, Star-Lord, Black Widow, Thor, Hulk, Captain America, Hank Pym, Captain Marvel, Loki, Korg, Nick Fury, and more, as the logo comes into focus. Also playing with these voices is the song "It's Been a Long, Long Time" by Harry James, which is the tune Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter danced to at the end of Avengers Endgame.
Yep.
Along with those voices, as we soar through the universe, we also hear real world figures like Neil Armstrong, Greta Thunberg, or Thunberg, however you pronounce that. Malala Yousafzai?
Oh.
Yousafzai?
It's Malala Yousafzai.
Okay. Yeah. Nelson.
I read she has a book that was really good. She wrote.
Well, I mean, I'm really familiar with her. I just never know how to pronounce her name.
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela, Maya Angelou, and more. We zoom out of the universe until we see another right next to it, which we end up zooming into after hearing a few brief tidbits of other songs. As we zoom in, classic Loki can be heard shouting "Glorious Purpose" from the previous episode of Loki. We hear former Liberian President Ellen Johnson, Vision's touching line about love persevering in WandaVision. I will rise. Vision's touching line about love persevering in WandaVision. I will rise from Maya Angelou, and then Sylvie saying, "Open your eyes." What we're wondering is, why are there two universes here? I'm getting this all from Slash Film as well, by the way. So this is their Easter egg breakdown. There's one where we heard everything from the Marvel Cinematic Universe in some real world chatter, and then we zoom into this other one that has real figures with mixed with few lines from Marvel's new TV shows. What does that mean? Okay, so after Loki and Sylvie refuse Miss Minutes' offer to allow them to coexist in a timeline without making a mess of everything, they pass a trio of statues that appear to represent the Timekeepers. However, there's a fourth statue that is broken in pieces on the floor. Does that mean there was a fourth Timekeeper? My thought, too, is, or was that a statue of He Who Remains? Who was it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, in the Marvel Comics, when He Who Remains created the Timekeepers, there were originally 4 of them. However, the Timekeepers, known as the Oracle of Siwa, was banished to ancient Egypt. Perhaps this is a reference to the Marvel Comics detail, and maybe it's something that can be explored in a second season of the show. Okay, the colors of Kang, or He Who Remains. We get this pleasantly goofy He Who Remains, which I agree with wholeheartedly. I think Jonathan Majors did a brilliant job performing this. It was just, he made every line seem like it was improvised, even though I know it was written. You know what I mean? The way he performed it, it just seemed very, like, honest and real and not acting, you know? I know a lot of people are familiar with Jonathan Majors. It's probably like the first time I've seen him, but I love the actor already. I want to go back and watch like Lovecraft Country and other shows that he's been in and stuff, just to see his acting in those. So his outfit is a combination that is purple and dark green, though the wardrobe doesn't exactly match Kang the Conqueror's normal, resemblance in the comics. He is wearing variations of the colors that he wears in the wardrobe. Basically, they're saying that his chest feels like a nod to Immortus, another version of Kang, who was tasked with keeping the timeline in balance, and has a little more in common with this version of the character. So, as people have brought up, and I mean I brought up too, the apple that he's eating. There are 2 interesting observations to be made about the apple. First of all, there are obvious ties to the Bible, which we brought up. And the idea of knowledge, and he's imparting a lot of knowledge to Loki and Sylvie. But at the same time, there's a link to another Master of Time. Doctor Strange is eating an apple when he begins to mess with time, manipulating his abilities with the Eye of Agamotto in the first Doctor Strange movie. So it's very, callback to that as well. So then we get, Ravana's real name, Ravana, Renslayer's real name. When she's in Fremont, Ohio in 2018, we find out, if you look in the background of the scene, you'll see that her real name is Rebecca Tourmanet, as listed on a diploma showing her college accolades in the life before. That's also the name that Renslayer adopts in the Marvel Comics after she is no longer associated with Kang the Conqueror. So, there's that's just a couple here. Also, like, this is the first appearance of He Who Remains, another version of Jonathan Majors' Kang the Conqueror, which is to be the next major MCU villain. And who knows how many different things he's going to appear in. I know he's supposed to appear in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So we'll see what happens and if he shows up in other movies as well. So, do you have any final thoughts here, Matt, on this thing? This
Not
episode?
really.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, any hopes for the second season besides the jet ski?
I know it's too soon to really think of anything.
Yeah.
I guess I don't want. I guess I want Sylvie and Loki to kind of get hooked up again and not too many hard feelings.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing too, like how depressed Loki looked when he got sent. Like he looked like he was about to cry. I mean, it was
I know.
It was very like I don't think he's ever cried in his life. At least not like that. Like
Yeah,
not faking it or whatever.
And then he's at the end too. It's like he's got to be going through a lot too, because like he's made two friends really in this series, Sylvie and Mobius. And Sylvie kind of betrayed him, and Mobius doesn't recognize him now. You know,
right.
So it's like that's gotta really suck. You know, because I mean that'd be like you're kind of like your girlfriend and then your best friend, both leaving your life at the same time. That would just be horrible. You know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where it goes, and I really hope it goes into answering some of these questions that we have. Because that was my main complaint still with this episode is, as much as I love Jonathan Majors' performance in the episode, but the fact that the whole episode was just three people talking, mostly. You know what I mean?
Right.
And with all the talking they did, they basically just created more questions than they did answers. So, I don't know. Reminds me of some people that I've worked with in the past that just babble on, and then you get nowhere. Anyways, so no names. Anyways, so the that's it for our Loki season 1 breakdown. If you guys have any thoughts about the show or anything, let us know. Maybe we'll bring them up in a future episode, and also, we will hopefully be covering season 2 whenever that premieres. I hear they're not going to start filming until January, so we're probably looking at like mid 2022 or early 2023 at the earliest. So.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got a while. And, I mean, we're going to have a couple movies and stuff before then, too, that are in the MCU that maybe some of these characters will show up in. Who knows? We'll see. See how they all link together, and hopefully it'll make sense. I mean, I liked this philosophical journey. This is probably my favorite of the 3 series so far. I really liked WandaVision a lot. I mean, I'm going to say this and WandaVision are probably my favorite. My initial reaction right after Falcon and Winter Soldier was that I liked it a lot, but now I'm going back and looking at it, and I don't like it as much as I did. But it was still a good show. It didn't have the, I don't know, intellectual kick that these 2 shows had.
Yeah, I think that would have been better as a movie, I think, than a show.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we'll see. We'll see what that leads to and stuff too. I mean, I am excited for a Captain America movie with Anthony Mackie in it, so we'll see where that goes. And I am interested in seeing Jonathan Majors in future iterations of this variant that he is, different variants of Kang or He Who Remains, Immortus or whatever you want to call him. Yeah, because like in the comics, he's a direct descendant of Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four as well. So who knows if they'll bring that up into this world, and maybe that'll be a way to bring in the Fantastic Four somehow or something. We'll see what happens. Anyways, make sure you check us out on social media. All2real2.com's got all the links to everything. Got any thoughts? Message me at mike@cullenpark.com. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Check out our TeePublic. We should soon have Gator Smoke shirts up. I gotta work on the design still. And if you want to get those, because I think those would be cool to have. And yeah. Anything else, just let us know. Be safe, everybody. Don't, step off the timeline too much. And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.